Hey everyone, I never thought I'd be confessing this to strangers, but here I am. Raw, shaking and completely undone, like I'm whispering this in the dark where no one can see my face flushing with shame and something else I don't want to name. 27, the kind of girl who always kept things neat and safe, because stepping outside that felt like inviting chaos I wasn't equipped to handle. There was the steady marketing job that had been my anchor until the layoff swept through like a merciless storm, leaving me jobless and scrambling in the wreckage. The fresh breakup that carved this hollow ache in my days, nights spent replaying words that still echoed too loud in my head. And zero clue how to navigate adulting alone in this city that pressed in from all sides, unforgiving and vast. Rent was crushing me under its relentless weight, applications vanishing into silence with no replies, the fear of hitting rock bottom clawing at my throat every morning. Then my best friend Mia. 10 years of platonic movie nights filled with popcorn and easy laughs. Zara weirdness ever crossing the line texted me one evening when I was at my lowest. Spare room's yours. Split the bills. No drama. It felt like the universe handing me a safety net just as I was about to slip under the waves, arms too tired to keep fighting. I packed my boxes with trembling hands and a quiet hope, thinking this was just a friends helping each other out, the way we'd always done through every little crisis. God. I was so wrong, so utterly unprepared for what moving in would awaken. The day I moved in, the apartment enveloped me in this intimate atmosphere that felt both comforting and dangerously close. It smelled like her vanilla lavender lotion mingling with the fresh coffee she had brewing, the scent wrapping around me and stirring something deep I pushed down immediately. Mia met me at the door, her arms pulling me into a hug so tight that I could feel her heart be tracing against mine. Warm and steady, her body pressed close for a moment that stretched. She pulled back with that soft laugh, the one that always lit up her eyes, and murmured, "Welcome home, Rumi," her breath brushing my ear lightly. We hauled the boxes through the narrow hallway into the tiny second bedroom, our arms brushing again and again, the accidental contacts ending tiny sparks along my skin that I blamed on the heavy lifting. After she had retreated to her room and the apartment grew still, I got up for water, moving quietly so as not to disturb. Her door was cracked open just enough to let out the low glow of her lamp and the faint, looping sound of that indie song Ocean Eyes playing on repeat, the melody drifting like a private confession. My stomach did this weird flip, a pull low and unfamiliar that made me pause in the hallway. I told myself it was nothing, just the newness and the exhaustion settling in my bones. But the proximity had already started, seeping in like rain through cracks, changing the air between us in ways I couldn't yet see. The first week everything remained innocent on the surface, routines unfolding like they always had, but I felt the undercurrent building in ways that left me questioning my own thoughts. Mornings would bump hips in the cramped kitchen while brewing coffee, her presence so near I could sense the heat from her body, our laughter bubbling up to fill the small space and mask the awareness. She'd steal my hoodie from the back of the chair, sliding it on with a playful grin and saying "It smells like you," the fabric settling over her frame in a way that drew my eyes before I forced them away. Evenings would collapse onto the couch after work, legs casually tangled under the shared blanket, the warmth spreading where our calves touched and making the room feel smaller, more intimate. We cooked dinner side by side at the counter, shoulders brushing as we moved in sync, laughing over spilled sauce that landed on her arm, my fingers reaching out instinctively to wipe it away, the touch lingering a second longer than necessary. The confined apartment turned every ordinary moment into the shared intimacy, our breaths mingling in the same air, scents and sounds blending until the space felt alive with us alone. I caught myself watching the way her hair fell across her shoulder when she laughed, the strands catching the light and framing her face, and this tiny flicker of something sparked inside me, tiny and harmless. I insisted to the voice in my head. Inside I argued fiercely, "Shesmia, your best friend for 10 years. This is just comfort, the safety net you needed after the breakup and the job loss. Don't let your mind twist it into anything more," but the flicker didn't go away. It stayed, quiet and persistent, warming with each passing day, and as the week drew to a close I found myself lying awake, the faint notes of her song filtering through the wall, wondering how much longer I could ignore the way my pulse quickened at the thought of her just a room away. By the time we hit day 10, the everyday rhythms had shifted into something sharper, every shared corner of the apartment humming with a low electricity that made my skin prickle before I could talk myself out of it. She'd lean right over my shoulder in the kitchen while we chopped vegetables for dinner, her breath grazing the nape of my neck in soft, warm puffs that made the knife tremble in my fingers, her hand sliding over mine to steady the blade as if it were the most natural thing in the world. I held my own breath then, counting heartbeats until she finally stepped back with a quiet laugh that brushed my ear again. Goodnight hugs stretched longer now, her arms wrapping all the way around me, fingers tracing one slow line down my spine before she let go, leaving a trail of heat that lingered under my shirt even after her door clicked shut. Mornings at the bathroom sink we stood hip to hip brushing our teeth, elbows nudging in the steam-fogged mirror, our reflections so close I could see the tiny flush on her cheeks when our eyes met for that extra second. Turning ordinary minutes into moments that left me dizzy. Stop noticing how her skin looks so soft in the morning light, stop feeling the pull, you'll ruin everything if you don't. Yet the awareness kept swelling anyway, quiet and unstoppable, like warm water rising inch by inch around my ankles. Then the little sensory fragments started carving themselves into me deeper than I could push away. Her vanilla lavender scent stayed behind everywhere, thick on the bathroom counter right after her showers, clinging to my own pillow when she'd borrow it for a quick nap and leave it smelling like her hair. I caught myself pressing my face into it longer than I should, breathing her in before I yanked the pillow away like it had burned me. The shampoo bottle in the shower kept getting lighter each day until I realized she was using mine, the familiar scent now angled with hers in a way that made the air feel stolen. At night, the thin walls carried the low pulse of ocean eyes from her room, followed by these soft, drawn-out sighs that didn't sound like sleep at all, each one slipping through the plaster and landing straight against my ribs. When she passed me in the narrow hallway, her fingers would graze my waist by accident, the brief touch sending a rush of heat under my skin that made my knees feel loose. Desire kept whispering right in my ear while morality shouted back louder, "She's your best friend. Alex, you're imagining the whole thing. Shut it down before it swallows you." The fragments turned into full-blown obsession before I could stop them. I started finding single strands of her hair on my sheets after she'd only come in to grab a book, the silk of her robe left hanging on the hook, where it would brush my bare arm every time I reached for the light. She began wearing my old turts to bed, the soft cotton draping over her in ways that made my throat go dry the second I glimpsed her heading down the hall. Our glances across the couch grew heavier, loaded with something neither of us named, and my mind replayed every single touch, every breath of her scent, every note of that damn song until they played on a loop behind my eyes. In the dark, I lay there wrestling the storm inside me. This is wrong. She trusts you completely. You cannot want her like this, or you'll break the only safe thing left in your life. But the want had already grown louder than the guilt, drowning out every warning, and the apartment walls felt thinner than paper with every single night that passed, until the space between our rooms seemed to shrink to nothing at all, and I wondered how much longer I could pretend I wasn't already falling. I pushed through the front door that afternoon, drenched from the rain, the job interview still stinging like salt in a fresh cut, my shoulders slumped under the weight of another rejection. The apartment hummed to quiet except for the low thrum of ocean eyes slipping from her room again, that same song wrapping around the silence like a secret it refused to keep. Her doorset cracked open, a thin slice of golden light daring me closer, and I thought maybe takeout would fix the ache in my chest. Maybe her laugh would make the day feel smaller. I nudged the door wider with my hip, bag warm against my palm, ready to surprise her. But the sight stopped every breath I owned. Mia lay angled in the sheets, eyes shut tight, one hand clutching a pair of my panties to her face as if they were the only thing keeping her anchored, her body shifting in slow, private waves that made the vanilla lavender air feel suddenly too thick to breathe. Then her lips parted and my name slipped out, soft and raw and desperate. Alex, yes, like that. My pulse slammed so hard against my ribs I thought the whole room could hear it. Heat flooded my face, my knees locked, and I couldn't look away even though every sane part of me screamed to back out, to pretend I hadn't seen the truth of her secret daily life laid bare. Our eyes locked across the charged space. No panic, no scramble to cover up, just her whisper, trembling and certain. "I've wanted this for years." The words hit like a storm breaking after weeks of pressure, pulling me forward with a gravity I'd been fighting since the first brush of her fingers in the hallway. I stepped inside, the mattress dipping under my weight until her breath brushed my cheek. Warm and unsteady, carrying that same vanilla lavender scent now mixed with something electric and unspoken. The almost moment stretched between us, hearts hammering in the same frantic rhythm, until the distance vanished and her lips met mine in a rush of heat and salt and every hidden ache we'd both swallowed for too long. Inside my head, the word tore me open. "This destroys everything, Shest, your best friend. You'll never go back to safe again." But the pull swallowed the warning whole. We gave into the current that night, bodies drawn so close the air itself felt alive, her secret rituals suddenly ours in the low glow of the lamp, the song still looping like it had been waiting for this exact surrender. Morning light cut through the blinds, and the guilt arrived like ice water. I stood at the kitchen counter making coffee, the vanilla lavender scent now triggering flashes of her voice shaped around my name, my hands trembling so badly the mug nearly slipped. "We can't do this again," I whispered, voice cracking open. "Yuri, my best friend. Mia, we were supposed to stay safe." She cried then, quiet tears slipping down her cheeks while she told me everything. How her secret daily life had been woven around me for years, slipping into my shirts just to feel closer, playing our song on repeat while the walls whispered what she never dared say out loud. We swore it was a one-time mistake, a line we could redraw before it ruined 10 years of friendship. Yet when evening pulled us to the couch under the same old blanket, her hand found mine again, fingers lacing with a quiet desperation that said the opposite. The relief of her kiss dragged us right back under, deeper this time, the entanglement trapping tighter around my chest until I couldn't tell where guilt ended and need began. I hated myself for craving her like this, for letting the want drown every promise we'd just made, but I couldn't let go, not even as her breath trembled against my neck and the song started playing softly from her room once more, like it knew we were already falling further than either of us could stop. The second loop hit harder than I expected, days folding into nights of stolen touches in the kitchen where her fingers would graze mine just a second too long over the counter, sending that familiar electricity racing up my arm. Locked doors in the afternoons became our quiet sanctuary, her confession spilling out between us while the song played low, her voice trembling as she admitted how every single day her thoughts had circled back to me, the rituals that had kept her company in the silence before I moved in. Jealousy crept in uninvited whenever she took those work calls, her laugh light for whoever was on the line, a reminder of the parts of her life I couldn't share openly, the secrecy gnawing at the edges of what we built. Hiding from our friends turned simple plans into minefields of careful words and diverted eyes, the complication settling heavy in my stomach like something I couldn't digest. But no matter how the tension built, every fight we had would find its way to that desperate relief, her drawing me in until our breaths mingled close, the warmth of her nearness washing over the guilt like a wave, holding it at bay for those fragile stretches where nothing else mattered but us in the moment. Inside, the monologue never quieted. "This is how you ruin the best friendship you've ever known, Alex, turning safety into something fragile and forbidden." Yet the craving for her closeness, for the way the apartment hummed with our shared secret, pulled stronger each time, the loops tightening until I felt the weight of it in every breath. Obsession took over the whole place soon enough, consuming the air we shared until there was no corner untouched. We'd revisit the shadows of her old daily life, now in our own way, the softness of my shirts against skin carrying echoes that made my pulse quicken, the vanilla lavender mixing in ways that filled the rooms with a scent that spoke of everything we couldn't say out loud, while the song looped endlessly like a heartbeat keeping time to our hidden rhythm. Arguments about shielding what we were from the world outside would flare up sudden and fierce in the narrow spaces between us, words cutting deep before they dissolved into that pull that brought us back together, clinging with a need that left us both trembling and somehow even more bound than before. The voice of reason had fallen completely silent by then, overwhelmed by the raw, insistent hunger that pulsed through every ordinary hour. What remained was this terrifying knowledge that the line was gone for good. No version of us existed anymore that could slip back into just friends without the ache of what we'd become. The entanglement was total, wrapping around us like the walls themselves. Then last night, after another cycle of tears that left us both raw and the soft words that followed like a bomb, I held her so close in the dark that our heartbeats seemed to share the same unsteady pace, And I whispered it finally, voice barely above the song still playing faint from somewhere nearby. Mia, I choose this. Us. No more hiding, we'll figure the rest out together, whatever it takes. We've reached this new equilibrium now, best friends remade into something deeper, sharing every layer of the secrets that once were hers alone. The apartment that felt like a gift at the start now holds me like it's the only home I know. Yet there's this lingering bittersweet pull in the quiet hours, an unresolved longing for the simplicity we traded away, wondering if the cost was higher than either of us can see yet. Everyone, what would you do if you discovered your best friend's hidden desire for you? Would you turn away and run from the gravity of it all, or let it destroy the old boundaries and remake you into someone new? Someone forever changed? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read everyone, searching for pieces of my own confusion mirrored back. And if you crave the full uncut telling of everything that came after the fights that tested us, the nights that healed in ways words can't capture, the way we're still finding our footing in this remade life, then hit that subscribe button and stay with me. This isn't over. Not by a long shot. It's just the beginning of the echo, the kind that stays with you long after the song fades, leaving you to wonder if some falls are meant to be endless.